Can you hear me? What about others? Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. Okay. Let me start the session. So in today's session, we'll try to focus on how to create and display screen elements under SAP Fiori applications using XML syntax. Create and display screen elements under Fiori apps using XML syntax. So I want to create one simple form, and simple form can have collection of labels and screen elements. Simple form is technically collection of labels and screen elements. It's collection of labels and screen elements. And simple form acts like a container. Simple form acts like a container for displaying labels and screen elements. So don't forget, it's a default container. We can use it whenever, wherever required to place label and its corresponding screen element. So what I want to do is, inside simple form, I want to place one label and a text screen element. This is non-editable. And I want to make use of label with for example, link screen element. And this is a hyperlink. And I want to make use of label with image. Label with, for example, input field. I want to take some collection of input fields. So I'll take some collection of labels and input fields, and we are going to use these things in the coming days for different requirements. So I'll try to place multiple labels and multiple input fields for accepting input from the end user. And not only that, I'll try to make use of label with, for example, checkbox. And label with switch. Switch is also one of the screen element. Here, this is for on and off. You can have on-off option by using switch screen element. SWITCH. So you can provide on-off option here if you are using switch screen element. If you are using checkbox, you can have selection or no selection. But switch provides on-off option, which is almost similar to a checkbox. And not only that, we'll try to make use of label with rating indicator. For example, 3 out of 5, or something like 4 out of 5. So I can have a rating indicator which we can accept rating value from end user. Similarly, label with slider. Label with slider. So here you can also accept input from end user by making a selection. So on slider, user need to select a value. By sliding that value, you can select one particular value, for example, percentage, something like that. And similarly, I want to make use of label with something like text area. Text area is for multi-line inputs. Multi-line inputs. But in case of input field, it is single line input. So input field is single line input. I want to take many input fields. But if you use text area is for multi-line input. Of course, image is for displaying some photograph, something like that. And I want to make use of label with something like date picker. So user can select a date. So I want to use date picker screen element and label with time picker. So we can accept time from end user by using this screen element. And similarly, label with drop-down box. So it allows single value selection. I want to use label with drop-down box. Drop-down box is for single value selection. And we can use combo box. Combo box also allows single value selection, or a user can enter a new value at runtime. Hello students, can you hear me? Can you see my screen? Can one of you confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. 1 second. Yeah. So here we can use combo box. Combo box allows single value selection, or user can enter a new value. Similarly, I want to make use of label with, okay, let me write here. Label with something like date time input, but this is outdated. You can accept date plus time as a combination. You can have date plus time combination, but this is outdated. You should not use this. So the alternative for date time input is you have to use date picker separately and time picker separately. These two are alternative screen elements for date time input screen element. Why? Because SAP has removed this in the future versions. Now, not only that, so we'll try to use label with multi-combo box. So it allows multiple selection, multiple value selection. So that is multi-combo box. And if you want, you can use multi-input. And this also allows multiple value selection here. But user need to type the starting letter here. There is slight difference between combo box, multi-combo box, and multi-input. That you'll understand only through by running the output. But technically, multi-combo box, multi-input, both allows multiple value selection here. So multi-input, we can have a search help here. And not only that, we'll try to make use of label with something like tokenizer. This is just to display list of values. You can use label with tokenizer. Tokenizer, you can use it to display some list of values. And we'll try to create label with breadcrumbs. And this is to display list of links. You can have collection of links. You can display the list of links by using breadcrumbs screen element. So first, we will try to target these options. After completing these options, we'll try to focus on list screen element and table screen element. Then table with formatter functions and list with formatter functions. And then charts, microcharts, and file uploader, etc., etc. We are going to discuss these screen elements in the coming days. No need to worry. First, we'll start with these above options. So we'll try to create a simple form in which we'll try to add all these different screen elements. So this is the best way to start. So let me start this Orion file, Orion.exe file. Let me log into web ID. Localhost, yeah, 8080 web ID /index.html. Now, in the last session, what we have done is we have created a project by using a Fiori worklist template. And that template provides two default screens. Something like, you can see there is a worklist view and there is object view. This is what we have done in the last session. We did not write any code, but by default, a project is created by using worklist template, and that template provides two views here, object view and worklist view, and you'll get some default code in these things. Now, what I'll do is I'll go to worklist view. This is technically a second screen in our application. So when you run the app, you can see this is the first screen. First screen is technically object view. And second screen is worklist view. Sorry, here, let me write it. There is some confusion. By default, an application which is created using SAP Fiori worklist template. So first screen is technically worklist view. And second screen is technically object view. Just remember these basics. Now, what I want to do is, here you can see the two views. Now, what I want to do is, first let me start with the second screen. In second screen, I want to add some screen elements. So what we'll do is, we'll try to go to object view. In object view, we'll try to start writing the code. If you want, you can write the same code in first view also. So view is nothing but a screen or you can call it as a web page. And don't forget, each view is associated with a controller. Each view is associated with a controller. And view is nothing but a screen, or you can call it as a web page. So in our application, first screen is worklist screen, second screen is object screen. So I want to write some piece of code under object view. If you want, you can use the same code in worklist view. It doesn't matter. But before starting this, you need to understand few basic points here. That is, okay, step-by-step procedure. Step 1 is open SAP Web ID tool and open your SAP Fiori project, which you have created in last session. You can open Fiori project, which you have created in the last session. And step 2 is open something like object view.xml file. And okay, register list of libraries on top section of a view. That's the first thing that you need to do before writing the code. Go to some view, whichever you want, and register list of libraries on top section of a view. So here you can see there is object view. Okay, so in object view, if you closely observe, these are the list of libraries by default available. So you can see these are list of libraries by default available here. And there's a full screen page. After full screen page, there is a content area. Okay, let me highlight here. So if you want to register libraries, you can register libraries here. And if you want to write some piece of code, go to full screen page. And inside that, there is a content section, begin tag, end tag. Within this content section, you can write your functionality, or you can write your code for screen development. Okay, let me just take this screenshot. You can take any view, doesn't matter, but we are writing the code in object view. So this is the area, this is the top section of that view. Under the top section, after sap.m library, you can register list of libraries here. Additionally, you can register list of libraries. Some libraries we'll use today, and in the coming days, we'll try to use some more libraries. So this is the area for registering list of libraries. Okay, not only that, you can see here, there is a full screen page. There's a full screen page, and inside full screen page, if you closely observe, there is content area. There is content area. So within this content area, you can write whichever code you want for screen development. Here you can implement code for creating screen elements. Okay, let me highlight here. So there is no confusion. When you start writing the code, just start according to this particular approach. So let me highlight this. There is a content area begin tag, content area end tag. Within that, you can write whichever code you want for creating screen elements. So whatever screen elements you create here, that will be displayed in your output when you run the application. So you can take first view, second view, or third view, but ultimately the same approach has to be followed. The top section is for registering the libraries, and content section is for creating your screen elements. Okay, so let me save this. This is just overview of a view. Now, first what we'll do is we'll try to register list of libraries on top section of a view. So let me write those libraries here, then I'll copy to the node file. So don't forget the default library is sap.m. You can see default libraries sap.m. And when you register libraries, you need to use XML-NS, XML namespace. So here I'll try to use XML-NS : For other libraries, you need to use some prefix or you need to use some namespace. For example, form. And with this, you can register SAP UI layout.form. XML-NS : you can use core for registering SAP UI core. That's a library. And we can use XML-NS : layout for SAP UI layout. That's another library. And XML-NS : you can use microchart. And this is for SAP Suite UI microchart. And then you can use XML-NS : unified. And this you can use it for SAP UI unified library. So as of now, these are the list of libraries we are trying to register. If required, in the coming days, we'll try to use some more libraries. Not only these things, if required, we'll use some more libraries. So no need to worry. But as of today, these two libraries are important: sap.m, SAP UI layout.form. Okay, so let me take this screenshot here. So sap.m, that's a default library. Just let me highlight here. There is no namespace for default library. For Fiori apps, this is a default library, or some people will call it as base library. Now, not only that, I can say, if required, on top of that, you can register other libraries like SAP UI core, SAP UI layout.form, SAP.UI.layout, SAP Suite UI microchart, SAP.UI.unified. So you can register additional libraries here. And this is the area where we have registered new libraries. But if you closely observe, SAP UI core, we have registered with prefix as core. But you can use XYZ. And SAP.UI.layout.form, we have registered with form as a prefix. And SAP UI layout, we have registered with layout as a prefix. SAP Suite UI microchart, we have registered as microchart as a prefix. SAP UI unified, we have registered with unified as a prefix. So when you are using the classes from these libraries, you need to use the respective prefixes in your coding. If you want to use a class from this library, then you need to use the respective prefix in your coding for creating that screen element. If you want to use a class from SAP UI layout.form, then you need to use the respective prefix in your coding. Why? Because different classes are available in different libraries. So you need to use the corresponding prefix while writing the code. The prefix must match with what you have declared here. Okay, so the point here is the name of the prefix can be X, Y, Z in your case. The same X, Y, Z, you have to use it here while writing the code. That should match. I've used core, but you can use X, Y, Z. But the same X, Y, Z should be used in your further coding for that library. I've used layout here, but you can use ABC, and that same ABC should be used in your further coding. But for better understanding, for core, I've used core as a prefix. Layout.form, I've used form as a prefix. For layout, I've used layout as a prefix. Microcharts, I've used microchart as a prefix. Unified, I've used unified as a prefix. But the prefix need not be same like what I've written. It can be ABC. But the point here is the list of libraries must be registered here. Additionally, you can register here based on requirement. So we are going to register some more libraries in the coming days. We are going to register some more libraries in the coming days. Please remember. Okay, let me just highlight these things. Okay, so here there is a full screen page tag. Okay. I think how to maximize. Okay. So here you can see these are the options. I'm very particular with this because we are going to use list of classes from these libraries by using the prefix which you have registered here. Okay, not only that, you can see there is content section. Within this content section, we are going to write some piece of code. I've already highlighted this. Implement code for screen elements. Okay, let me save this. And we have registered this under object-view.xml file. Okay, so register list of libraries. That's the purpose of the screenshot. Now, after registering libraries, these are the libraries. Let me copy this. That is step 2. Now, there is a default library without any prefix. SAP.m is a default library. So there is no prefix for that. So you can use the classes of this SAP.m library without using any prefix. If you're using the classes from this library, no prefix is required. Because that's a default library, you need not worry about that. Then step 3. So go inside content section of full screen page. Go inside content section of full screen page and then implement below code. So we are going to write several lines of code And those lines you can implement inside content section of full screen page inside object view. Step 4, you can save and activate. Okay, let me put this here. Activate is not required, just save is required, and then run the application. So how to run it? Select your project folder and click on run. That's it. Now let us focus on the coding part now. So here, what I want to do is I want to go inside content area. Inside content area, we'll try to create a form. So I want to use form as a prefix here. And you can see when you use form as a prefix, it opens list of options, list of classes related to that library. Here you can see if I use form as a prefix, then it is trying to open different classes from that particular library. These are all various classes. In that simple form is also one of the class. But all these classes are opened from SAP UI layout.form. That's a library. You can see that. So the point here is as soon as you use its prefix, you will get list of classes related to that library. So here, what you can do is you can use Control plus space to get list of classes or properties or methods or whatever. But ultimately, Control plus space is required. So C indicates class. Just remember that. Every screen element contains a class. So here C indicates class. Just let me highlight that. So generally we can use Control plus space to get list of libraries or classes, not methods, properties, events, etc. Okay, now before writing the code, we'll try to understand some XML syntax. In the last session, I've already explained, but let me repeat that within few minutes. So XML syntax for creating screen elements. So there are two important syntaxes. Syntax 1 for simple screen elements. Syntax 2 is for complex screen elements. So today we are going to use this syntax vigorously. But first, let me just give 2-line syntax here. For simple screen elements, you need to use screen element class tag. That's a begin tag. And here you can use end tag separately. Begin tag, end tag. On begin tag, you need to use property equal to value. Property equal to value. You can have multiple properties and its respective values. And you can have event equal to event handler. You can have multiple events for the screen element. That is possible. So screen element begin tag, screen element end tag. On screen element begin tag, you can use property equal to value. Event equal to event handler. So this is one of the syntax. Or the alternative syntax for this is There is an alternative syntax here. Let me highlight that. You can use screen element class tag, and you can directly use end tag with slash. On begin tag, you can use slash. That indicates that itself acts like begin tag, end tag. So slash is important here. And you can use property equal to value. Property equal to value. And event equal to event handler. So you can also use this syntax. You can use this syntax or you can use this syntax. It's up to you, but this is screen element class tag. For syntax 1, these are the two options. So for complex screen elements, what we do is we use screen element class tag. Begin tag, end tag is compulsory for complex screen elements. For complex screen elements, begin tag, end tag is required. So this is the main screen element. Main screen element internally can have an internal screen element. You can have internal screen element, begin tag, end tag. So main screen element, begin tag, main screen element, end tag, and within that you can have internal screen element, begin tag, internal screen element, end tag. On internal screen element, we can have property equal to value. So that is possible. Event equal to event handler. On main screen element also, we can have property equal to value syntax. On main screen element also, we can have property equal to value syntax and event equal to event handler. So in case of complex screen elements, this is the approach we have to follow. Now we'll try to use these syntaxes for screen development whenever, wherever required. So here you can see I'm trying to use form. That's a prefix for one of the library. Under that, I'm trying to use simple form. So you can see simple form is a class from SAP UI layout.form library. So I can use this, use begin tag, end tag. And for this, there is one option, layout. So that means layout is a property of that particular simple form. You can see layout. Layout is one of the property for simple form. And here I want to use something like responsive layout. That's one of the layout for placing screen elements in a proper order. Now, not only that, I want to make use of first one, label with text screen element. First, let me try this. So I can use label L. So label is from sap.m library. For classes related to sap.m library, you need not use any prefix. Directly, you can use your class name. For example, label is a class from sap.m library. So no prefix is required. Directly, we can use it. Just use control space. If you use control space, you'll get list of classes from sap.m library. So first, let me use label, and label contains some properties here. You can see that, and some events. So you can see some properties. P indicates property, E indicates event. So you can see here. P indicates properties and E indicates events. A indicates association properties. So as of now, let me use text as a property. And I want to provide some text, for example, about some company, something like that. So that's a simple text you can use. And for this label, I want to use text screen element. Text screen element is also from sap.m library. You can notice that. And for text screen element, text is a property. I'll try to use important properties. So text is one of the important property, and you can provide some text here. Some text I want to display. Text is a screen element class, and text is a property, and you can supply the text value. Now, similarly, I want to use one more label with, for example, I want to display a link, something like company website. So here, that's a label. And for that label, I want to associate with link class. Link is a class from sap.m library. And link contains two properties. One is text. Text property is important. And href is another important property. You can use control space to get list of properties here and list of events. Events we are going to discuss later, not now. Events we are going to attach by assigning event handler, and we are going to implement code in controller. So event handler topic will come at later stage. But as of now, let us focus on just properties. So we are using href, and I just want to use some Google website address here. Something like www.google.com. You can use /search !q equal to Oasis. Something like that, or directly you can just provide like this. Doesn't matter. http://www.google.com. So that's a link I want to open on selecting this link screen element. And I want to open in a separate tab. So you can use one property, target as _blank. And I want to use some width. Width is a common property. And I want to use some width as, for example, 200 pixels or 250 pixels. So text is one of the property. href is another property. Target is a third property. Width, we are using the fourth property. So target _blank, it is just to open that website in a separate window or a separate tab. You can use target as _blank. Now, similarly, let me try one more option here. After link, let me use label with image. I want to display some simple image. So label, I can use text, for example, some Oasis logo or something like that. So here I can use image screen element. Image is also a class from sap.m library. And for image class, there is one important property, src. There are several properties, but we'll try to focus on important properties. You can see src is one of the property here. What all you will find in documentation, the same properties you can get it here just by using control space. The properties which we have observed in our documentation, the same properties, same classes, same libraries, you'll find it when you use control space while writing the code. So SRC is one of the important property. I just want to use some logo, some oasis.zip file. And this logo must exist in your project folder. So let me import one logo or one image. You can use browse option. Okay, let me try this. Okay, let me copy from some other project. Okay. So you can right click, import from file system, browse it, and you can select some Oasis logo, something like that, and click on OK. Now that file is imported into our project folder, and use that file name with the code. And if you want, you can provide some width, for example, 70 pixels. You can use height, for example, 80 pixels. So height and width, these are the common properties for most of the screen elements. Okay, let me run this as of now. Let me check whether it is working or not. Let me go to the second screen. And in second screen, you can see here, there is some text screen element, there is link, and there is some logo. Logo, let me just. So here you can see there is text, hyperlink, and logo. But here you are getting in a center alignment. But if you want to change the layout, you can change the layout here. So let me use responsive grid layout. Just observe the difference. So responsive grid layout, you can see you are getting left side alignment. But if I use responsive layout, then we are getting a center alignment by default. You can see that. And not only that, if I use grid layout, let me try. Grid layout. So you can see it is expanding to the full screen if you are using grid layout. So as of now, let us focus on responsive layout. But what we can do is here you can see, okay, sorry, responsive grid layout I want to use. But on top of this layout, I want to make sure that these things are properly arranged. So here there is a space. This is not in proper order. Labels are not in proper order. So what I want to do is I want to maintain some consistency. So what we can do is we can go to label. On label, we can use some properties, text direction. Text direction, let me use RTL, right to left, I think. Okay, let me try with LTR, left to right. Now this is left to right. Now let me try with RTL, right to left. So you can see now there is some difference. There is no empty space at the beginning of that line. So here, similarly, I want to use text direction. That's a common property. You can use it on every label. On every label, you can use text direction as right to left or left to right, depending upon your requirement. So now you can see. So here you can see this is a little bit more meaningful and in proper order. If you compare with previous output, so you're getting the left alignment and the screen elements associated with those labels are properly displayed in that particular responsive layout. Now, not only that, I want to highlight this label. I want to highlight this with bold. So what you can do is you can go to this label and use one option here, like design. So design is one of the property. For design, you can use bold or standard. By default, design is standard, but I want to make it bold. So dark color text will be displayed here. If you use design bold, it will display dark color text. So save it and you can run this. Now you can see that. The label text is dark color because of design is bold. So you can make all these type of adjustments. No need to worry. You can also change the color. You can change the layouts and all those things we are going to focus when we go with CSS, cascading style sheets. That is a separate topic, how to change the color, how to provide background color, how to provide foreground color or text color. All those things we are going to do it through CSS concept. But as of now, let us just focus on these properties. Design as bold, text direction as RTL. These are the common properties. Now let me go with label and input fields. I want to use some labels and input fields so that I can perform some various database transactions. So let me add that code here. First label text, for example, enter user ID, something like that. And these things I'll try to use it very commonly. So like that, let me use some collection of labels here. Collection of labels. I'll be using these things in the coming days also. So let me add the all required labels and required screen elements. Something like this. Now for all these screen elements, for all these labels, I want to use the screen element as input field. So let me try here. So input and input screen element contains value property. That's an important property here. Value is an important property. If you want, you can provide some default value or you can make it blank. It's up to you. And let me use some width, 250 pixels. So similarly, I'll try to take another input field. Value is a property. If you want, you can provide some default value or you can make it blank. It's up to you. But width is a very common property. So like that, I'll try to use some collection of input fields here. Okay, so labels and input fields. I hope you got some clarity now. We are going to add many features to these input fields in the coming days. We are going to apply validations on these input fields. We are going to apply dynamic validations. As soon as user enters a value, we can apply some dynamic validation. So for all those things, we are going to assign event handlers. Event handlers concept we are going to discuss in the coming days. Now let me test it as of now. You can run this. Here you can see now we're able to get some input fields. So user can enter some value, something like this. And for these things in the coming days, we are going to apply some different validations. Email ID validation, mobile number validation, numeric integer salary validation, etc., etc. Uppercase, lowercase, combination, special characters, everything we can apply. All those different types of validations we can apply. Now let me go with label and checkbox. So here you can see that is by default. Default, you'll get that colon. After every label, by default, you'll get colon. That we can't change it. So here I want to use label text, and let me provide like this. And let me use text direction and design. That's just a label. But here I want to use checkbox. Checkbox is a class from SAP.m library. You can see that. And for checkbox, there are important properties here. Something like you can see text. Text is a property. And another property is selected, I think. You can see selected is also property. I want to make this default selected, so you can use true. If you don't want to maintain selection, you can make it false. Very simple. You can use true or false. It's a Boolean type of property. Okay, let me make it false. And not only that, I want to use label with switch screen element. Switch screen element, you can use on off, yes or no option. On off, or you can have yes or no option, something like that. So that's the purpose of switch screen element, which is almost similar to checkbox. Okay, let me use it here. First label. For example, are you contract employee, something like that. And let me use text direction, design bold. Then here, I want to use switch screen element. Switch is also a class from SAP.m library. And here you can use state. State is one of the property. State is one of the important property. I want to use state by default as false. And there should be a custom text of, okay, let me make it like this. Save it, let me run it. Now you can see, so here you can see there is a checkbox. You can select or deselect. And there is switch off, on off option here. You can see that. So switch is on off, but you can change that on off text to yes or no. That is possible. On off is a default text, but you can change it to yes or no, something like that. So how to do that? So here you can see there is custom text on. Custom text on, I want to make it as yes. And custom text off, I want to make it as no, something like that. Instead of on off, I want to use yes or no. That's the alternative text we are providing. Save it, run this. Now you can see there is yes or no option here. Instead of on off, now it is yes or no. So that is possible. And not only that, you can see here, we can add one more screen element, label with rating indicator. You can accept a value from end user by using rating indicator. Let me add that here. One label, text, select rating, and let me provide some text direction and design bold. Here I want to use rating indicator screen element. Rating indicator is a class from SAP.m library. You can see that. So here you can see, while writing the code, as soon as you type, and control space. So what you'll get list of classes. So if you closely observe, radio button is a class from SAP.m library. Radio button group is another class. And rating indicator. And if you scroll down, you'll get all the list of classes. But technically, C indicates class. C indicates class. Okay, let me write here. C indicates class and P indicates property and E indicates event. C, then P, and then E. E indicates event. And A indicates association. That we'll try to use it in the coming days. So as of now, just remember this. To get list of options. Okay, so let me close this. Now I want to use rating indicator, and rating indicator contains some properties here. Along with events, I want to use value. Default value, I want to make it 4-star. And maximum value, I want to make it 5-star. So it is 4 out of 5 now. There is no width, you can ignore that. So default value is 4, maximum value is 5. So it is 4 out of 5 now. You can just observe this output. Here you can see. There is 4 out of 5, but user can select 3 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, 2 out of 5. It doesn't matter. So the selected value we can capture in event handler. Whichever selected value is available, that we can capture in event handler by writing code in controller. So all those things we are going to proceed further later. Now let me use label and slider screen element. Label with slider. So let me try here. Text, for example, select percentage. And you can use text direction and design as bold. Then here I want to use slider. Slider is also a class from SAP.m library. And for slider, I can use min value. So you can see there is a property, min value, max value. Minimum, I want to use 0. And maximum, I want to use, for example, 100. And default value, default percentage value, I want to use it, for example, 50. And slider, it contains something like width. You can use that width. For example, here also 250 pixels. So save it. Okay, you can close this, save it. Now you can run it again. So now you can see there is some problem. It is not going to the next screen. That means there is some problem with your coding. That is also one of the indicator. So we are trying to go to next screen, but it is not navigating because there may be some problem. Let me check what is the problem here. So some clarity you may get here. So you can see there is invalid XML. That means there is some syntax problem, invalid XML for your tag. Let me open that. Closing, I think closing bracket is missing. Now you can save it, run it. Now you can see it is going to the next screen. So there is a slider by default 50, 0 is minimum value, and 100 is maximum value, and user can select any value. That all depends. So you can see that. So this is also for accepting the input from the user. Now, say suppose if I miss something, I'm not closing that bracket. I'm not using slash. I'm not ending the tag by providing slash. So there is some problem that you can recognize here. So it is not going to the next screen. So how to identify that? You can go to F12, press F12 in browser. When you press F12, you can see some error is provided here. So what it is saying? So it is saying that some invalid XML, that means some ending bracket, ending tag is missing. That is one of the main reason for invalid XML. If you write some code and if the tag is not ended properly, then you will get this error, invalid XML. So if you don't close ending tag properly, then you can expect this. Expect, right? Yeah. Expect invalid XML error. These are all simple but very important. But how to come to this screen? You need to press F12. To get this, you have to press F12 here in browser. Run the app in browser. After that, press F12. Press F12. So it opens error screen here. We call it as a console. It opens a console, which is technically by default, if there is an error, there will be an error screen that is opened by default. But that is part of console here. So that is one thing that is very simple but very important. And how to apply debugging? Debugging we are going to discuss later in the coming days, not now. But this is the pattern to identify the error at browser level by pressing F12. If you press F12 again, it will close that. So this is to identify errors in browser using F12 function key. Okay, if you press F12 again, it will close that. But there is invalid XML, so the ending tag is missing. So you can use slash here, then save it. Now run it. So there won't be any problem. Now it is going to the next screen. Sorry, it's not saved, I think. It's not saved. So let me save it. Now let me run it again. So it is going to the next screen. So there is no error. Now let me go with, okay, first let me try this. So label with date picker. Let me try with this. Date picker for date. So it's very simple. We can use label text, for example, select start date. I want to use start date, and I want to use text direction and design. And this is a date picker I want to use. So that's one of the class newly introduced. And this is also from SAP.m library. Date time input is invalid. It is outdated. You can see strikeout symbol. So let me use date picker here. And let me use some width. If you want, you can assign default value. That will do it later, but width, let me use 250 pixels. And not only that, you can see there is label with time picker. Time picker for accepting time. So let me use label text. For example, select time of joining, something like that. And let me use text direction. And here we can use time picker. That's also one of the class newly added from SAP.m library. Time picker, you can something like 250 pixels. Now, let me use date time input. So here I can use label text, for example, select date and time, something like that. And you can use text direction, design. Then I want to use date time input just for knowledge purpose. I'm using here, but it is outdated. And here type is one of the property. And here you can use only date, only time, or date plus time. You have three options here. Only date you want, or only time, or date plus time. So that depends on your choice. So here also we can use some width. Let me close it. Then one last screen element for today, that is label and text area. Label with text area. Text area is for multi-line input. So first let me use label text. For example, enter comments or provide comments, and you can use text direction. So here I want to make use of something like text area. Text area is also a class from SAP.m library. So text area, and we can have default value, for example, provide comments, something like this. And here we can also have some rows and columns. Rows and columns, these are the important properties for text area. Rows and columns. You can see COLS. Okay, let me use rows. For example, rows, I want to use 5 rows, and columns, let me use, for example, 40. And width, let me use, for example, 250 pixels. So here the point is rows into columns. So 5 into 40, in this case, 200 characters are allowed. 5 rows into 40 columns. That means 5 into 40, 200 characters are allowed inside this text area. So you can save it, and let me run this now. So you can see we are able to get all the screen elements now. So let me just take this screenshot. So here there is a checkbox, and there is switch and rating indicator, and there is a slider. You can see that after slider, you can see there is a date field here. It opens a calendar. On selecting this, it opens a calendar, so user can select any date and any year. You can see that. So then there is time picker. So time picker, you'll get a pop-up like this. So hours, minutes, seconds, and AM, PM. You can see that. Hours, minutes, seconds, AM, PM. So this is one of the screen element here, 10:55 PM I want to use. Then click on OK, so that will be selected. So on selecting this, it automatically opens a pop-up here with hours, minutes, seconds, AM or PM. So user can drag like this, you can scroll, you can pick that. You can see that. Now there is another field that is date and time field. When you use date and time field, you'll get both date and time combination. You can see that. It opens another pop-up. It opens another pop-up where you can have month, date, year, and hours and minutes. That's it, along with AM or PM. So it's a combination, date plus time. You can scroll and you can select date, month, year, hours, minutes, and then AM or PM. And there is comments field. So here you can provide some comments. So this is multi-line comment field here. You can have multiple line comment section, something like this. So it's multi-line comment. That is multi-line comment is applicable by using text area screen element. So like this, you can have different screen elements. And this is the basic screen we have designed at this level. We'll add so many features later. Okay, let me take the screenshot. So if you closely observe, this is completely a simple form container. This is a simple form container here. Don't forget that. So it acts like a container for displaying collection of labels and screen elements. Don't forget this. Labels and screen elements you can display through container concept, and that container is a simple form. That is one of the container. In the coming days, we'll use panel as a container. We can use splitter as a container. We can use other layouts as a containers. So that will come later stage, don't worry. This is the output screen. So by the end of today's session, you will be in a position to develop a screen like this. Okay, so I'll copy this code for your note file. What you need to do, go inside content section. Be careful, most of the people will make a mistake here. Just go inside content section of full screen page and just implement this code. Let me open the doc file. If I paste that code directly, yeah, it is working, no problem. Or else, let me try here. Go inside content section of full screen page and then implement this code. Okay. So as of now, we have discussed some screen elements and drop down, combo box, multi input. We'll try to discuss all these screen elements in the coming days. That means in the next session, tomorrow. Tomorrow, we are having a session. There is no holiday tomorrow. We'll be having a session. So please remember that. Now, if you have any doubts, you can ask me.
Hi Vijay, this is Hemlata here.
Yeah.
Can we use the default date and time setting as we use for the current date which is in the system for side date
So
or side time?
yeah, that we can assign. For that, we need to write some piece of code. We have to write some piece of code in on init method, and we can set a default date or default time. But on init method is part of controller. So controller related code, we are going to write it in the coming days. Okay.
Yeah, okay, Vijay. Thank you.
In controller, we are going to use on init initialization method. In that method, we can set a default date or default time or a default value for any screen element, depending upon the requirement. But that I'll introduce when we go for controller concept. Yeah,
Yeah,
next
okay,
doubt.
thank you.
Hello, sir. Anand here.
Yeah, Anand.
Yes, sir. I have two questions, sir. One is, do we have any check button to check the syntax, or else we need to go to the URL only, and after that we can press F12. Is that the
Press
only
F.
way, or we can?
That's the only way. That's the only way
Okay.
I think. I'm not sure
So
about
no
other options,
syntax
but
check as no
no
syntax check
direct
as in
syntax
back.
check. No, no,
Okay.
it's not like that.
Okay. Okay.
Just go
And
to
the next
browser, press
question.
F12, then you'll get that.
Okay. And in the next question is, we were using the multiple screen elements. So every time we were using label and that screen element. So
Mm,
the next label, after one label, whenever we are using the next label, it was coming
mm.
uh, downside of the first label, below the
The
first label.
next label will come in the next line. Yeah.
Next slide. Okay. Okay, sir. So
So
is
here,
it any kind of layout we have selected? That's why it was like that.
yes. So here, simple form itself is a layout with that behavior. What we have done is we have used simple form, right? So simple form itself acts as a layout, and it will place label and screen element side by side. The next label, next screen element will come in the next line. That is the arrangement provided if you use simple form by default. Say suppose I want to take, for example, I want to have two labels. Okay, something like this. Label some screen element, input field, and one more label and checkbox in the same line. Then for this, we have to use something like horizontal concept, horizontal layout concept. So by default, simple form will provide label input, and in the next line, you'll get label checkbox, something like this. But if you want to have in the same line, then we are going to use a concept like layouts, horizontal layout, vertical layout. So when we go for layouts, then you'll understand how to place multiple labels, multiple screen elements in the same line. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yep, Vijender Praveen here. And I have a doubt. I mean, if we need to change the properties dynamically, so we will go for controller.
Yes. If you want to change the properties, one
Like,
second, let me
like,
close this. Yeah. Who
like,
is this? Praveen.
yep, Praveen. Editable, non-editable, likewise.
To change, yeah, to change behavior or property value dynamically. That is
Yep,
possible. We are going
at
to,
runtime. Yep.
yeah, let me complete. So dynamically at runtime. So that code we have to write it in controller in event handler. You're getting my point. We have to assign some event handler. In that event handler, we can change the behavior of that screen element or property of that screen element dynamically. So that again, it comes in controller part.
Okay. And
Yeah.
sorry, I can understand the simple form is giving the next line for each label, right? If I didn't put label, if I put it to input text field as a sequentially, means it won't go for next line.
Here you can see if I'll remove that. So here you can say I'm removing two labels. Let me check what happens. Even I am not sure what happens. Here you can see I'm removing these two labels now. So you can see now. So what is happening? The previous label itself is a label for the coming screen elements here till the next label. Here you can see. This is the main label now. After that, the three screen elements are loaded in the same line. So if you take label, then simple form will go to the next line automatically. But here it is not going to the next line because by default, it is considering the last label as a main label for all the three screen elements here. For example, if I want to accept full name, enter full name. So there should be an input field, one something like first input field and second input field. First input field, I can accept something like, in first input field, I can accept something like Ajay. In second input field, something like Kumar. So in this type of situation, one label with multiple input fields or multiple screen elements is possible. So this is approach you can follow. In single line, you'll get that. But if you use label after the screen element, that label and its respect to screen element will go to the next line. Okay? Got some idea?
Okay. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Hi Vijay. So
Let me bring this code back to the normal. Okay. Okay. Now next doubt.
hi Vijay, Sunil here.
Yeah,
So
Sunil.
while creating the screen elements, how are we going to identify what are the important or mandatory properties given for the codes?
Can you repeat your question once again?
So while creating the screen elements, you are specifying the important properties.
Yeah.
So since we are new to this UI5, how are we going to identify these important or mandatory properties to be given?
Yeah. Okay, I got your question. So there is no shortcut rule. There is no shortcut rule to identify these properties. Only through experience and only through training, you will be able to do it. You are talking about important properties. How do I know what is the important property or important event? So for that, there is no hard code principle or there is no hard code or a shortcut rule. So only through training or through experience that you have to come to a conclusion. SAP has not provided so-and-so property as important property. They have provided list of properties, but whichever is required for you, you have to use it and you have to consider that as an important screen element.
So this is what we are going to check in the SDK reference guide and see all these properties which are given.
In documentation also, you will get list of all properties.
Yeah.
But there is no indicator. There is no indicator for important property. So that's what I'm saying. By experience or through training itself, you have to learn it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. For this, you can't blame me. You have to blame SAP for this. They did not provide any indicator. Okay.
Yeah. That is why the reason is while you are doing development, I see that you are taking the properties randomly. So we are in confusion over here which property to take.
Yes. But yeah, I think you got my answer, right? Then next doubt.
I got it. Yeah.
Hi Vijay, this is Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony, what's the doubt?
Yeah, how to display the first name and last name in single row?
Single row.
Yeah, yes.
So that's what I was saying, right? So you want two labels with two
Yeah,
fields or
yeah.
one label?
I want to display label also in single line item.
Two labels, two input fields, something like that.
Yeah, yes.
So then I think we can go with some horizontal layout concept. Horizontal layout. So whichever screen elements you want to place it in single line, those screen elements you put it in one layout, horizontal layout, something like this.
Okay.
So horizontal layout, begin tag, end tag. I'm just giving idea, but in the coming days, we are going to do it practically. So here we can have label, some input field, and you can have multiple labels, multiple input fields within that horizontal So now these two labels, two input fields will come in single line because we are using those 4 lines in horizontal layout. Okay.
Okay,
This is
okay.
one. Yeah, this is one of the solution. Yeah. Next doubt.
Yeah, Vijay Shankar here.
Yeah,
Hi,
Shankar.
sir.
Yeah,
First, let
Vijay,
me
like,
go to Shankar.
yeah, how to bring in the, like, say, in the date picker, date, month, and year format. And in the date, month, year also, like, say, we have, like, say, forward slash or the full stop, right? So, how to
So
bring in this different
that
format there?
that is a format type you can select. There is one property, format property. You can have like this. You can also try after the session. You can have like this. So format is a property for that screen element. If it is a date, are you getting my point? So I did not use that format property as of now because in the coming days I'll be using initialization value with a default format. But format is one of the property. You can also use that.
Okay, okay. Yep.
Yeah. Then next doubt.
Yeah, hi Vijay. This is Supriya.
Yeah, Supriya, what's the doubt?
See, when we want to add some code, we registered some libraries. So, how to identify which libraries we have to add?
No, the thing
There will.
is, yeah, the thing is after getting some experience, we have come across complete documentation, right? In that documentation, SAP has provided library. So, for example, if I want to use a table, so table
Okay.
is belonging to SAP.m. And if I want to use something like a checkbox, so SAP.m. So that library must be available. If you are using, for example, simple form, right? That is not available in SAP.m. Are you getting my point?
Yes,
It's not
yes.
part of SAP.m. It is part of SAP UI.layout.form. So that's the
Okay.
reason why we have declared this library. So depending upon which screen element you want to use, based on that, the respective library must exist. And this library names, you can find it only in the documentation.
Okay. And for form, we used as prefix for one of the library. And now,
Yes.
when you are writing code, you used only form. But if you want to use other libraries as well in the same code, then how
No.
to do it?
If you want to use other libraries, you need to use another prefix. Say for example, think like this. So I want to use SAP UI layout. That's another library. And that is having a layout prefix. So what you can do here, while writing the code, you can use layout as a prefix. And under that, you can see the list of classes related to that library is provided here. You can see horizontal layout is one of the layout. So horizontal layout is one of the class under layout related library. So we have to do like this. If I want to use something like another library, core, then for example, item. So this is another library we can use like this. So here you can use, for example, microchart. That's a prefix for one of the library. So here I can use something like comparison microchart, something like that.
Yeah, but my question is, can't we use two libraries same time? Like
No,
today you wrote
no.
with form in the same. We can't add another one.
Here also we are using two libraries. Here also we are using two libraries. Simple form belongs to one library. Labeled text belongs to another library. Are you getting my point? So simple
Text
form is a
belongs
class
to
from.
base library, right?
Yes. So what? You can use other libraries inside these forms. Inside the form also you
Okay.
can use it. So
Okay.
here, say suppose I want to use a drop down, then we use like this. Here, now you can see.
Okay. Fine.
So that means item is a class part of SAP UI core
Code.
library. So
Okay.
we can have different classes in different libraries. All those things we can use it with different combinations.
Okay. Will you be giving some exercises for us, like to practice? I mean, there will be so many different things, right?
I'll be giving some assignments, but we are in a very beginning stage. So what we'll do is after 6 or 7 sessions, I'll try to give assignments.
Vijay.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One
Then-
more question.
so-
Vijay. Yeah. Like
Yeah, what's
we
the doubt?
whatever we added at the top of the page, but if we want to use it in another part of the page, like bottom or something, how to do it?
No. All the libraries must be on top only.
Libraries, the content like labels, this text and all, input fields and all.
Is say, for example, if you want to use, no, this is the overall content area. The point is, whatever you want, right, you have to write it in content area. In that content area, you can have your header, some content and footer, something like that. So for that, we have to use some other blocks. So content itself is a content area for placing all the screen elements. So within this content area, we can have a sections like this. We can have sections like this, something like header content, and here after that you can have something like icon toolbar, icon tab bar. You can have begin tag, end tag, and within this icon tab bar we can have some content area once again. And we can place some screen elements, and at the end of this icon tab bar we can have some footer content area. And within that content area, we can have some screen elements. So we have to segregate one content area into multiple sections like this. Header content is one section. Icon tab bar is another section. Footer content is third section. So whatever you want to write, you have to write it within the main content area itself. Okay.
Thank you, Vijay.
Yeah. Then next doubt.
Hey, Vijender, what is purpose of using the simple form? Can we use multiple forms also?
Yes, we can have multiple forms in single screen. This you will understand. This also we can do it, but you should have some layout. What we can do is we can use like this simple form 1, for example, simple form 1, begin tag, end tag. And similarly, simple form 2, begin tag, end tag. And these two simple forms, you can use it in another layout, for example, horizontal layout. So one screen can have multiple layouts, multiple forms, all those things are possible. Multiple panels, etc. Now, if you closely observe, in one page, you can have one layout, and within that layout, you can have form 1, form 2, form 3, etc. That is possible. Okay. Got it? Hitesh.
Technically, it's just to have a layout kind of thing, simple form.
Exactly.
Like how we have in the like SAP is the same thing.
Yes.
Layout.
So yes, simple form is just a layout, or you can call it as a container. It is just a white box. In that box, you can add your screen elements. So simple form is a container with just a white box here internally. So inside that box, you can add whichever screen element you want by using begin tag, end tag, and all those things. But it's a container. Yeah, it's a container with some default layout. So that's the reason why you are getting label plus screen element, left and right combination. That's a default approach for a form. Yeah, then next doubt.
Hi, sir. This is Pratap.
Yeah, Pratap, what's the doubt?
This is case sensitive tags. Tags are case sensitive or
That case rules, the XML syntax rules, there are 4 to 5 rules that we'll be discussing in the next session. In the next session, we'll try to discuss that syntax rules, not syntax. Syntax we started understanding, but syntax rules. There are 5 rules that we'll try to discuss tomorrow. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Then next doubt.
Hi, Vijay. This
Yeah,
is
Rahul.
Rahul. We have multiple input screen elements, right?
Mm.
So, how to identify which screen element is for which parameter?
What is the? I did not use any parameter here.
Means suppose we have some multiple inputs, right?
Hmm.
Screen element.
Yes.
So, how controller identify which input is for name, which input for